It's quite late. It's 8 p.m. and we are in Harrogate doing what? Going for a really mysterious ghost walk. Follow us and we will update you more. Now we reached our destination and we have our lovely ghost guide.
Building in Harrogate. The job centre. Yes. A performer, it scares the life out of me. No, we're not talking, he's talking about these buildings. But it's this one
Over here, all right.
This beautiful double-fronted Victorian building. Very rare in Harrogate. It's got these kind of curved windows with the original curved glass. And this, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, is the Harrogate Club. It's still a private members club, but it welcomes ladies. However, when it was formed in the 1900s, it was gentlemen only. And it was a reading club. No, they played a lot of pool or snooker at the time, which was the sport for gentlemen. And they used to meet in a hotel called the Gascoigne in Harrogate, which is long gone. And then they kind of outgrew it and needed their own establishment. And they were men of means, which means they had loads of money. So they didn't need to do anything but drink and do business. So they bought this building, and it's been the Harrogate Club ever since. So for a small fee, I think it's £700 a year, you could become a member. You can get your own key and have 24-hour access to the most beautiful building in Harrogate. Now, years ago, they spent a lot of money doing the inside out, and it is now back to its former Victorian glory. It is stunning. Malcolm Neeson, a local historian who sadly very recently passed away, spent a lot of time researching the building and helping them put it back to its Victorian glory. It is amazing. In September they do open days. If you get a chance, sign up and get inside. It is fantastic. Let me walk you through the building. Through the door there's like an inner vestibule area with another door where you can hang your coats up to the right. There's a beautiful staircase going upstairs. To your left, this room here is their breakfast room or their dining room and their function room. And to the right is their bar area. And this room here is stunning. Everything's like leather clad and wood. You can imagine a Sherlock Holmes sat in there having a drink and a cigar. And equally, the bar at the very back of this room is just like a little Victorian East End pub, like tiny, wood clad. It's just incredible. You go up the stairs and to the left, there's the reading room. No reading goes on there. There's a little bar in there. This middle window above the door is a bar, and to the right is their pool hall, and that is incredible. Like the ceiling goes all the way up. There's a big skylight which floods the room with light. It's amazing inside, absolutely amazing. And it's got the best unknown story that Harrogate has to offer. And there's a little blue plaque outside of it to commemorate it. In 1921, world famous writer and creator of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, visited Harrogate. Now he started his journey where we did, outside the pump rooms, where he took the cure and had a press photograph taken. Now he wasn't here alone. He was here with his best friend at the time, the infamous escapologist and magician Harry Houdini, had travelled from America to meet with his friend Doyle. Now, Houdini was kept a secret because he was a troublemaker. He'd only recently gone to Hull, not far away, to go to a séance, which was taken place in a kind of music hall with the Davenport twins. Two circus performers from America travelled over here claiming to be clairvoyants. Houdini sat in the audience, waited for his moment and stood up and said, "You gentlemen are fakes. I am Houdini and I am here with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle." Doyle was like, "No, shut up." And the two brothers dragged them into the street and had fisticuffs with Doyle and Houdini. Some reporters were there. They quickly drew the scene by hand and put it in the papers the next day. And Doyle was mortified because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle believed in the spirit world. He was a staunch spiritualist. And spiritualism came to the UK after the Great War, where thousands of men lost their lives on the battle of the first day of the Somme. And Doyle's son, Kingsley, was shot in the neck on the first day of the storm. He didn't die of his injuries, he was wounded very badly. Came back to England, and with a low immunity, got Spanish flu and passed away. But Doyle blamed the war, as many people did, for the deaths of their young men and husbands. So they were looking for a new religion, like I mentioned earlier. They were bored of Catholicism and all the other churches. Spiritualism came along and people were entranced. You could speak to your dead loved ones. What's more amazing than that? You could talk to your dad, your brother who just died in the war. So people gathered together in seances to try and speak to the dead. And people paid a lot of money for it. Doyle and Houdini were invited here to the Harrogate Club for one such seance, which took place in that room on the left-hand side there. Very secret evening, the curtains drawn, a few female members were invited along with their wives and members, and they all sat in the darkness trying to communicate with the dead. Now, I was really lucky. A number of years ago, I hired that room out, and I held my own seance in there. And a number of, did anyone come to that? No? An unusual few things happened that night, actually. And I found out the place was haunted afterwards, which is why we're here. I mean, we're here to talk about the Doyle story as well, but this place has got a couple of brilliant ghost stories. Now, just finished with Doyle and Houdini. They fell out eventually because Doyle believed in spiritualism, Houdini didn't. He thought it was a load of rubbish. He was a magician. He used to fake this type of thing. So the two publicly fell out when Doyle and his wife Jean, who was a clairvoyant, travelled to America and held a seance for Houdini, where Houdini's mother came through from the dead and spoke to Jean. And she wrote down messages from Houdini's mother, gave them to Houdini, said, there you go, they're from your mum. And he read them, and he left the room. And Doyle said to the press, who were waiting eagerly outside, he said, Houdini was genuinely moved by the experience. Wow, they've convinced Houdini the dead speak. The next day, Houdini wrote a letter to the press, which said, I denounce all friendship with Doyle and his fake wife, Jean. My mother was German. She couldn't speak a word of English, let alone write reams of letters in English from the group. He said, so all the letters they gave me were completely fake and made up, and they fell out publicly. Doyle spent the rest of his time trying to speak to his son Kingsley, and Houdini spent the rest of his time proving that clairvoyance was fake. So they got two very opposites who attracted. And it's just amazing that their story brought them here for a seance. Now, this building is haunted. One evening, not so long ago, a cleaner was up in the reading room, cleaning one of the bar tops. And she had her back to this window here. She was over in the corner of the room. And she froze in fear. All the hair stood on the back of her neck. She felt like someone had just came into the room. And she knew she was alone. And she said, I closed my eyes and I was terrified. And I stood there for a long time. And eventually I thought, I need to go because I need a wee. So she turned round, faced this window and opened her eyes, and there was nothing there. She was about to move when something stopped her. A noise, a cough, and then, very clearly, these words. Would that be all for the night, sir? In a young man's voice, she heard those words uttered. She screamed and ran out. She got out here, outside, and she rang her boss. She came back, and they searched the building, finding nobody. And they now believe that she heard one of her predecessor staff members asking somebody, would that be all for the night, sir, before I turn in? Staff used to live downstairs in the basement. A couple of servants would live down there. Just in case you turned up in the dead of night for a drink or a cocktail, they'd be there to serve you. And they're still there. They haven't left. They're not being paid because they're dead. Now, I've been very lucky to come here a number of times. And we were downstairs. We walked down the stairs. There's a number of officers, and one of the doors was wide open. They're always shut, and I just thought it was odd. And the guy showed me around and said, you've just pulled the face of the door. Yeah, why is it open? It's a ghost. Anyway, he told me this brilliant story, how often there's a servant, a manservant, wearing tailcoat and a waistcoat, and he's seen as a real person opening the doors, going into a room, doing something, and either coming out or not coming out, and he just disappears. And he said to me, how can he open the doors? Why doesn't he just do what a ghost does and float through the door? I said, well, is the door original? Yes. The hinges? Yes. The handle? Yeah. Well, that's his door. He doesn't need to float through it because it exists in his time, as it does in ours. And that's the storm tape theory that I see a lot in Harrogate. Through my research for the book, I found this happens a lot here. And I think it's because of the water. That's just a theory. No, I do, because spirits need energy to do stuff. They need to draw on energy to make themselves appear or move objects. And because there's a lot of spa waters beneath our feet, creates a lot of continuous energy, perhaps they're drawing from that, and we get this storm tape theory, where you just see a moment in history replaying itself. So this waiter, or the staff member downstairs, is just going about his daily business because he still exists there. The best story comes from this building. One evening, the manageress was leaving, and they always leave the hall light on. See this light? It's always on, always has been since the club started. And that's just in case you turn up in the dead of night and you want to let yourself in. She was stood in the inner door, putting her coat on, when that light went out. Could be the trip switch, she thought. I have to sort it out. So she opened the inner door, fumbled around, and just to the right is the coat stand. And this is key to the story. The light switch is here somewhere, but there's coats and hats in her face. So she's got her head turned, and she's trying to find the light switch just in case it works. And she gets the light switch and turns it on. To her surprise, the light comes on. But her head's kind of pointed down here to where the stairs are. And where the stairs are is a pair of black polished shoes, which is odd because they weren't there before. And as her eyes look up, there's a pair of neatly pressed black trousers. And further up, there's a black waistcoat, a white shirt, black tailcoat, black cape, a cane in one hand. And as she looks up, a really handsome gentleman's face, wearing a black top hat. As she stares at him, for what was only a few seconds, she said, completely in shock and awe, she said he was handsome, beautiful in fact. And she said in those split seconds of looking at him, lots of things raced through her mind. What is he wearing? He's got fancy clothes on. He's not a member. Look, it's old-fashioned clothing. Oh, he's dead. Oh, it's a ghost. Oh my God. And she blinked and he disappeared. And she'd only looked at him for a few seconds, but so much went through her mind. I said, I've never seen him since. But every night, I hope I do, because he was well fit. She said he was very handsome and young, wearing a very posh outfit, and she believes he was one of the past members. Now, they've had some very famous members here, some very rich members. I always forget his name, Jamie Foxx, the actor, and he's also like political. People nodding their heads. He's got a sister as well, Amelia Fox, an actress. Their great-great-grandfather owned this huge mansion in Bilton. He was an inventor of the gas lamp. And where Bilton Fire Station is, he paid for the fire station to be built in case his gas lamps failed. And he's the only person in Harrogate who's been mayor 3 times in a row. No one's ever beaten him. And his house is amazing, very haunted. And it's now going to be turned into a nursing home, which is a real shame. But there you go. We're going to move on to our penultimate location. If we've got time, I know some people have got to leave.